Yes,
Okay.
good
Uh,
evening.
Devina, good evening. Sorry,
I
there are some
hope
technical
I'm
issues.
audible. Yeah.
No, it's okay. Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
You are also audible.
Uh,
Aromal, Aromal, this is okay now. Just to go to ask Aromal. No, it's okay. It's okay. Aromal, please, I unmute.
Yes, sir. Is it
Okay.
audible?
Yes, you are audible to you. Audible to all.
ഒരു സമയത്ത് ഇവരുടെ പരിപാടി വെച്ചിട്ട് ഇത് തൽക്കാലം ഇങ്ങനെ പോട്ടെ അതിന് പറ്റും. Good afternoon, ma'am. Shall we start?
Yes, Aromal, you can start, Aromal. Brother.
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And so we know that we are living on a world, or rather an earth, that had lost its like the ecological rhythm. Like we had a nature that provided us nothing excess, and it was always in that golden mean. It provided rain, it provided light, it provided everything which were in its adequate quantity. But now the things are not the same, and the nature started showing the signs of extremities. So like we term it climate change, and the global phenomena of climate change have affected all aspects of our life, the human life, like changing it, the very nature of life into mere survival. And it have caused destruction in the area of civilization, in our, like, the physical development. But we are not very much aware of the aspect on which how this climate change affects language. We know that every language has an intricate relationship uh, with the nature it sustains, within the nature it sustains. So today we have Dr. Devina Krishna, who will be providing a comprehensive idea on language how language is affected by the climate change. And so I welcome Dr. Devina Krishna to this 25th lecture of Sangam, the Transdisciplinary Research Forum of Department of Linguistics, Central University of Kerala. So I will just give an introduction to Dr. Devina Krishna. So Dr. Devina Krishna is an assistant professor in the Department of English, Patna Women's College, from 2019 till present. Her academic qualification include MA Net in Linguistics, MPhil, and PhD. Her research interests include phonetics and phonology, language documentation, applied linguistics, and research methodology. She had field experience working on time aspect and mode of Nishi under supervision of Professor Anvida Abe. She has also compiled Dogri English bilingual dictionary of 1,000 lexical item with toolbox under the supervision of Professor Anvida Abe. She was awarded most enthusiastic member of NSU, Lady Sri Ram College for Women, Delhi University in 2004. She was also awarded Gargi Excellence Award for Teaching and Research organized by LIB, Heritage Society, and MIT University, Patna in 2022. And so now I welcome Dr. Devina Krishna to deliver her talk on the behalf of our department and all the students and faculty present here. So I welcome ma'am.
Thank you so much, Aramal, for the warm introduction. And I want to thank the organizers of this research forum, especially Dr. P. Sri Kumar, and all of you who are associated with this and gave me a golden opportunity to discuss my views on climate change and language attrition today. So I would just like to share my slides. Is my slide visible, Paramal? Arumal?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
It's visible? All right. So, thank you once again, the Department of Linguistics, Central University of Kerala, for this opportunity. And today I'm going to talk about ecological impact on linguistic diversity, exploring linguistic erosion in northwestern India amidst climate change. Well, this is something this is a kind of research I did last year. And this is a very, I should say, a very basic kind of research that I started. And things are still proceeding. The work is still on, it is still under construction. But then I thought that this is a right platform to discuss this. So I'm very privileged that I got this opportunity. And today I'm going to discuss some insights of this work. Well, we all know that climate change is a pressing problem in today's times, and we are all grappling with that. And it is actually, the thing is that, directly there is no, it is not directly, you can say, it is leading to language erosion, but there are, like, indirect impacts. And that is what we are going to explore in today's talk today. So, as you can see, this is a picture taken of Bharmor region in Himachal Pradesh, because I'm going to basically focus on Himachal Pradesh today, and of course that is the place I hail from, I belong to, and I just thought last year that why not do something in the area of ecology also, and so this came as an interface between ecology and language. And I thought of, exploring this region of Bharmor. This is one of the regions where I focused on one of the semi nomadic community, that is the Gaddi tribe. And the language that I'm going to emphasize on is Gaddi language, that is an endangered language. And there are very few speakers left. And of course, it is facing endangerment. And well, one of the indirect causes we can relate to is climate change, because it is adversely affecting their lives in all forms. So, whether like it is related to their livestock, the livestock is getting affected, it is affecting the health of the Gaddi people. And of course, there is this issue of language attitudes also among many people over there. However, I should not say that people are not ready to use their language. Some, well, some are, but the number has really reduced in a significant form. And the younger generation is moving outside of the Bharmor region. It is reaching to other places. So there's urbanization also taking place. So as you can see, this is the area where these shepherds walk, and they actually, take their livestock along with them. And of course, that's a part of their work. So basically, I have, whatever I did in the form of a research work, I mentioned here as the elements of the research by giving you some introduction and little bit review of related literature, some research questions, hypotheses, the methodology that I adopted, the data collection, the sources, I mean, and how climate change and its impact on Gaddis have really affected their lives, with some discussion and analysis, thematic analysis, conclusion, implications. So, as we know that climate change transmutes ecosystems into disruptive zones, menacing the Indian linguistic diversity. It has indirect repercussions, I must say. And in the present study, we will see a kind of, the study explores the intersection of climate change, language attrition, and of course, community impacts. And the prime area is the northwestern area of Himachal Pradesh, where I have currently focused on the Bharmor region. Of course, there is also a region called Kinnaur. So there also I tried to contact certain informants, and I got some information, but primarily it was the Bharmor region because that's the chief Gaddi belt. So, this study actually investigated the correlation between climate change and the loss of Gaddi language. And of course, as I said, I'll reiterate again that this language has become endangered. So, this is a semi nomadic community. This is a semi nomadic community of Bharmor. And this community travels with their herd in search of suitable climates and green pastures. That's how they live. So they are always in the form of, you will find them walking. So they don't stay at one place, but sometimes you find them in one place and then you find them in the other place. So they just keep on walking, and they're like, there is a lot of variation in their walk. Sometimes you see them sitting and preparing some stuff, and then again you'll see after some time they'll again walk with their livestock. So that's their usual way of living. And of course, when we talk about Bharmor region, that actually in the past few years, as I spoke to one of the female members of this tribe, so she told me that in the past few years we have seen a lot of climatic changes, especially the rainfall. It's so unpredictable, and there are alternations in snow line. There is this increased cases of landslide taking place, and also haphazard construction in the mountains that I have not mentioned in the slide, but that is also one of the reasons. There's construction of dams taking place. So in a way, we can say that we as human beings are also responsible for this climate change, and it is we human beings are who are making this happen. So no, so we can see that climate change, of course, it is affecting, I mean, all regions, across the world. But then, if specifically I looked at the Bharmor region, so I also got to know that how it is also affecting the quality of the grasslands also. Of course, as you see that the mountain area, there's a lot of construction going on, and there is less greenery now, and even the grasslands are getting affected. So there is something called shifting of ecology taking place, shifting of ecology upwards while affecting the quality of grasslands. So, so this study is just a very basic study, but yes, it is true that when I interacted with the tribal people, so I could understand their plight also. In a way, they are not very happy because it's affecting their livelihood to a great extent, along with the cultural loss, linguistic loss. Well, just like words weave together to form a story, ecosystems weave together to form a delicate balance of nature. So everything is, interconnected. So if the biodiversity, or let's say, the ecosystem is getting affected, so naturally it is going to affect everything. And as we say that within our ecological system, we can say that there are so many elements that actually carry so much of knowledge, and with the disruptions of these ecosystems, the knowledge somewhere also gets vanished. So we have to take care of that. And in a way, when we see the interface between ecology and the linguistic domain, we'll see that the knowledge is also getting reduced. There are like so many terms. For example, I'll also show in the slide eventually. There are so many terms for flora and fauna which is getting lost because there's disruption of ecology taking place, and maybe there's a certain fruit that was existing which is not existing now. So the once there is no existence of the vegetation, then even the term is lost. So there is this interface that ecology and the linguistic items are sharing together, and I think it's time for us to reflect upon this. So let's little bit talk about the review of related literature. So as we know that climate condition is a pressing problem, it's a growing concern for our generations and even for the future generations. And the world leaders have failed to reach a specific conclusion, and the menace looms large, blocking a sustainable future. Now, when we talk about human activities, for example, or deforestation, that has been making things worse because the natural ecosystem has been collapsing and getting affected. Dobbins et al. Argue the effects of greenhouse gases will persist for many years, even if the world stops emitting such gases immediately. And that's true because this raises our concerns, about the changing weather conditions as they significantly, threat the existence of human and non-human factions. So whether it is a rising sea levels or melting glaciers, these have already, posed a lot of challenges to human beings. For example, in the coastal areas also. Indigenous tribes whose livelihood depends on the ecological balance, shifting and displacement of the indigenous communities, and such events present detrimental implications for indigenous self-determination. That's what White says. Reliant on specific environmental conditions. Intricate relationship to the surrounding forests, mountains, weather patterns, seas, and rivers. Disruption of natural surroundings. So, like as I said, that language. Let's talk in the context of language. Now, language evolves in connection with physical geography and changing cultural contexts. Each language has unique geographic and cultural contexts. And as these physical and cultural contexts change, languages change too. So we can say that language is, it is actually, connected with its land, forest, cultural traditions, and typical environmental changes. For example, let's talk about the proverbs and idioms of any language. They are usually based on the weather patterns and other typical seasons. So, such connections are found in English and other languages also. So, for example, I gave the example in my research work. The idiom rain as right, I'll repeat, is based on the belief that rain is usually right in the English context. It vouches for its cultural belief about the rain and the essential role of rain in the lives. However, the idiom depends on the essence of rain, and the idiom could become obsolete or irrelevant in the absence of rain. So this is true that well, this is one aspect that language in a way thrives on its environmental or let's say geographic conditions, and this is quite true. This is something that needs a thought, that needs a lot of reflection. And when we talk about the reasons why we are losing languages, of course there are so many reasons, like globalization. To begin with, globalization is one of the reasons, or let's say urbanization or migration, forced migration, lack of intergenerational transmission. Well, there are endless reasons for that. So in a way, even if we look at the previous literature, these things have been dealt with, and the only thing, as linguists, this is of prime concern. So I think we need to look at the situation and come up with some action plan so that whatever we have, we can save that for the coming generation. Eliot suggests that forced migration is a potential source of insecurity for those whose lands and ecosystems can no longer sustain them. Of course, this is something which is a matter of concern. So, talking about other things also, I will just like to also mention here that the environmental factor becomes more critical for the endangered languages, as this connection ensures the longevity and sustainability of the language. Now, in the case of language loss of the endangered languages, the shift towards the loss must be reversed by ensuring its natural connection with the same environment, and this could allow for the language to reconnect with its origin and flourish naturally. So language is, it's very sensitively, or let's say intricately connected to its culture, to its physical environment, and both are required for it to flourish or revive. So well, the human effort also matters in this regard. Now, several critics have established the link between language sustainability and the environment. Languages evolve around cultural and natural contexts, and natural contexts play a considerable role in making them dynamic and unique. So, linguistic connection with specific geographic surroundings cannot be ignored. For example, an indigenous language has an intricate relationship has an intricate relationship to its, to the surrounding forests, mountains, weather patterns, seas, and rivers. And if that natural surroundings gets disrupted, that can hurt a language, that can affect a language, and that may lead to its endangerment. Also, so that's also one, you can say one view of, language, something that is leading to language endangerment. One of the scenarios. And further, all languages, especially indigenous ones, thrive in communities. And once the communities are disrupted, languages also get affected. Languages are also hampered too. So these are the things of concern. And identification of endangered languages and their preservation is vital in the globalized world where a dominant language supersedes the other languages. So many often when we discuss with students that what are the issues related to language endangerment, or what are the causes of language or linguistic erosion, then of course there is something called switching to dominant languages also. Today itself, I was discussing with one of my students. So she hails from Assam, and she speaks Karbi language. So I just said, "Oh, you are a Karbi speaker." Well, Karbi is an endangered language. So I said, "What is the linguistic situation at your place in Assam?" And she said that, you know, uh, we don't speak pure Karbi now. The language, there are very few speakers left, and of course, it is endangered. And the young generation, the kids, they all mix Karbi with Assamese. So there's a lot of code mixing taking place between Karbi and Assamese. So we have our own code now, which is a mix of a blend of Assamese and Karbi language. And there's no Hindi speaker, but yes, we do mix Assamese and Karbi. And I think this is a scenario which is prevalent in many places. So we don't have a pure code left to speak a language, but then it's more like a diluted form of a language, which is a mix of codes. Now, when I thought of working in the area of this tribal community, I thought to correlate with climate change, because this is one area where the problem of climate change is affecting their lives in all forms. So whether it is the economic condition, whether it is their health factor, if we take that into consideration. And as I said that, I'll also talk about instances of there are like cases of language attitudes also, where people within their community, they don't want to speak that language, especially this language. So they want to switch to other languages. So those things I'll also cover. So primarily, there were two research questions: that how does climate change impact the Gaddi tribes' language and culture, and how does climate-related migration affect Gaddi language and culture? So based on the idea, I formulated two hypotheses also. One was primary hypothesis, that climate change alters the ecological and socio-economic dynamics of the Gaddi tribes' traditional practices. This tribe has been, immersed. They have been immersed in various traditional practices, and some of the practices also I'll discuss, which some of them still practice, but in some way or the other, it's the ecological, or let's say the socioeconomic dynamics, that has really altered it also. And this was supported by an ancillary hypothesis that changes in traditional livelihoods and cultural practices erode language use and transmission. Well, qualitative research design was proposed in the beginning, focusing on questionnaire and interview methods for data collection purposes. So I employed in depth interviews, observation methods, and document review. And the Gaddi community that resided in the regions of Himachal, chiefly Kinnaur and Bharmor primarily, were consulted. Of course, a survey method was conducted involving approximately 10 Gaddi individuals. Well, this was just a start, so my sample size was not very huge. But then, since I'm going to expand this work, so I, propose to have more and more introspection in this area. And then, of course, the study had limitations also. But then, this is something which I would be expanding more in the future. And male and female, and consisted. So this study consisted of male and female, and consisted of the community members, traditional language holders, and younger generations. These were the people who were actually, uh, interviewed, or I must say, to some people, I discussed also certain things. It happens at times that when you reach to many people, sometimes you don't get, the expected responses also. But then, yes, some amount of filtration was also done. So basically, there was a lot of trust on language use, climate change experiences, and traditional knowledge. Questionnaires were prepared and administered to the educated individuals of Kinnaur and Burmore to provide data on the Gaddi community and climate change. Well, data collection is not an easy task. Sometimes you don't get the expected responses, and even it just depends upon the the informants also. So I was quite privileged that I could come across certain educated individuals who gave me the exact ecological condition, or I must say the climatic condition of that area, and made me aware of the many things that were persisting that time. Telephonic interviews were conducted to explore experiences and perspectives on language loss and climate change. Secondary data was gathered by paying attention to the observation of Gaddi's cultural practices, language use, and climate related adaptations. And other than that, I also watched a lot of documentaries, because there are some documentaries on Gaddi language, very interesting documentaries. And through the documentaries, I got to know some people to whom I contacted on telephone, because I could not visit the site. And I got some information, interesting information on this language, on people, their culture, their way of living, and of course, some material from the podcast. So let's talk about the climate change and its impact on Gaddis. Now, the culture of Gaddis is gradually vanishing, I've mentioned here, and that's very true. There is one major informant of my study whom I have highlighted also in this study, and I'll just make you show later. So he just told me that the culture is vanishing. There are various reasons, but of course, these reasons are interconnected also. However, they are some of them are making efforts to to preserve the culture. They're trying to conduct community based initiatives also, but then that's less in number. So he said that because of urbanization, migration, or let's say in some way or the other climate change, because climatic conditions are adversely also affecting their lives. So in a way, it is affecting everything. So I just got to know that this whole, I mean, there was some kind of, adversity in the climatic condition. For example, huge rise in temperature in the regions of Himachal. That creates hassles for the community. So that, that temperature, that the living conditions are getting affected. So if you don't have a proper living condition, then actually you sometimes have to take a decision, and because of that, many people are moving out also. Many people have stopped practicing their role as shepherds. They are no more practicing that profession. They are like, today itself I was just trying to listen to some documentary, and I just got to know that somebody was practicing this profession, and then that person left it, and the next generation has already been sent to some other place for studying, and the next generation is no more practicing that, because there are so many reasons why they don't want to practice, which is a matter of concern. So there are like very less, uh, I should say, people left to practice that profession also. An increase in temperature by 0.02 degrees Celsius yearly during the last 20 years. So people have seen a lot of changes, especially there's a rise in temperature by 0.02 degrees Celsius every year. And that just adds to the temperature. So as I said, that the living conditions are very adverse. Heavy rainfall, or heavy snowfall from January to February. So that's the snowfall time, producing conditions for low temperatures and leading to difficult situations. So sometimes, well, snowfall is quite a norm there, but then it is very heavy. Variations in the mean annual temperature. So all these are, I mean, this is all which is visible. People are feeling that, they are experiencing that. So that is making their life difficult. Well, I just didn't want to, talk about the interface between ecology and language, and how, climate change is affecting. It has, indirect impacts on the language, culture, the lifestyle of people. But then this is a matter of concern. This was a matter of concern also for me, that what exactly is the plight of people? Are they really unhappy about it? To what extent? And of course, there are so many things they are grappling with. For example, I mentioned here like unpredictable and uncertain rainfall affecting the irrigation. That's also one of the parts. Then, of course, Himachal ecologically is very vulnerable. There is deterioration in the quality of the pastures. As I said, that the grasslands or the pastures have really deteriorated in the quality. So if there is deterioration in the quality of the pastures, it is also affecting the livestock also. And this serves as a kind of, there is no motivation involved for people to continue in the profession, or maybe if there is, uh, some meaning to, or if they wish to, continue that profession, maybe they are helpless. But in a way, that kind of, some amount of, I should say that unwillingness is there. Of course, high rising temperatures and lack of snow also at times, that is also there. When they expect snow, there is no snow at all, and suddenly there is too much of snow taking place. So in a way, it impacts the health of the livestock, and the livestock is more susceptible to pests and diseases. And I also got to know that, these poor people, they are facing a lot of problems. Sometimes, they are with their livestock, and for a moment if they disappear, there are cases of theft also taking place. People come, or people come in some kind of vehicle, and they take away their, they actually, they take away their livestocks. So that is a matter of concern. So that's why many people are discontinuing the act of rearing sheep. There is displacement taking place, and people are moving from one place to another. As I said, that the next generation is basically moving to the outskirts of Vermont, for example, or they want to do some other job. Most of them are interested in doing government jobs. So in that purview, they are switching to economically advantageous languages also. And there is lack of intergenerational cultural transmission. So while some people are still speaking that language, but that number is not sufficient. It's very less in number. So mostly people have made an exit out of their homes. And I was just watching a documentary on Gaddi, and it just made me sure that, one of the Gaddi speakers said that, people don't speak their mother tongue. And what a shame, if they don't speak their mother tongue, then how will the culture revive, or how do we uphold the culture? So it is important. Being a Gaddi speaker, I felt so proud of the speaker. He said that, we should speak our mother tongue. We should speak our mother tongue so that we, sustain our culture. That's very important. And he said that, the officers that I meet, I remember he said in the video, the officers that I meet, they have language attitudes. They don't want to speak their language. And then comes the problem of intergenerational cultural transmission, when the language is not transmitted to the next generation. So again, there's a problem. So maybe, uh, the speakers, the younger people, they are simply not aware of the language, or even if they know, so that language is not in a, might be in a very basic form. Here I have mentioned deep knowledge of the flora in their environment on wild edible fruits and cultivated crops. Now, so there are a lot of, wild edible fruits in the Himachal belt, cultivated crops. So there are terms for that, and some of these terms are getting vanished. Well, some amount of, ecological disruption is also there, but then some way or the other, since people don't come in contact, you know, uh, with such terminologies, so they do. Many of them don't know, because you need to have that kind of experience to speak a term also. So if you visit Suppose if they get a chance to visit the area where they find, these elements, so there can be some, inquisitiveness. What is this fruit? Why is it called so? But people don't come in contact. Even the vegetation is getting less. Many of the fruits are not visible also. So in a way, that is affecting. I mean, some might be knowing, but then on a large scale, I mean, there is a lot of scarcity. So I just mentioned here, as you can see, so we have some wild edible terms. We have cheed, that is a oil from apricots. So that's a kind of oil. And we have 12 dozen species of wild fruits and nutraceuticals. So we have some of these fruits here, like Rita, Isalo, which is a wild raspberry, Kafal, which is box myrtle, Kismoy, a purple black fruit, this is Singaru, this is Barbary, then Baru, wild fig. So, I mean, fig, all of you have seen, but this is some special variety of fig. And then bean, which is a silvery berry, and then kaju, mountain ash. So we have like a lot of, fruits, their varieties. But the point is that how many of, especially the young generation, are they really aware of the terms? Well, some of these fruits might not be visible at all. So once the fruit is gone, the word is gone. And in a way, ecological disruption is of course taking place. And as I said, that everything is interconnected. There is this whole idea of climatic condition affecting the grasslands, the vegetation, and at the same time, people are indirectly affected by that, and they don't that just affects their lifestyle. That is affecting their economic lifestyle or their way of living, their cultural, you should say their cultural, the cultural impact is less, the linguistic impact is getting less. So erosion is taking place. So I won't say that I found so many speakers who were aware of these terms. I mean, if I ask any young Gaddi speaker, a young Gaddi child, that do you know what is cheer, he or she might be wondering. So, well, that is the state. So even the wild edible terms are getting lost. So I conducted my survey, and in the survey, I could, some questions were there. So I have not, mentioned all the questions here, but just for you to know the real situation that I just got to know. So I spoke to these people, Gaddi people, and I asked them that, do you think that climate change has also impacted the Gaddi tribes' culture and language in general? So yes, 77% acknowledged that yes, it is climatic change that has really affected their tribe, their culture. Well, some disagreed also to some extent, and there were some who were uncertain because they are very, I found them very mild and very down to earth, humble people, and very gentle people and very simple people. So many of them, they lacked the awareness also. They didn't have much information, so they couldn't respond also properly. But yes, many of them agreed to this, and which ensures that, in a way, their see climate condition is it's affecting everywhere. Even I'm sitting in Patna, so every day I can see the transition in weather. Sometimes it is raining profusely, sometimes it's a drought like situation. So it just depends. But then in this area, it is affecting, their profession to a great extent, that things have really become difficult. Moving on, moving on to the other question. So I asked that, have you seen any changes, regarding this language use among younger generations? So they said that yes, majority of them, 83% agreed that there are changes in, language among young people, while 10% disagreed and 7% remain undecided. So the vast majority recognized, language shifts among young Gaddis. And as I said, that many of them are moving out. So when they move out, suppose if they move out from Bharmor to Kangra region and they're working in Kangra, so it might happen that their language Gaddi gets mixed with Kangri language. So again, there's a mixing taking place. So the pure Gaddi, the pure essence is lost. So there's language shift taking place. Or if they move out of Himachal, then again, they might come in contact with some other dominant language. So that can take over. It depends. But yes, that is the situation, that they are moving out. The young generation is moving out, and they are most of them are not going to practice that profession of being a shepherd and involved in the livestock business. And a small minority disagreed due to varying experiences and limited uncertain informants suggests general awareness. Now, so yeah, this is true that when we collect the data, of course, we have different kinds of responses. But yes, it's true that, you know, uh, prominently many of them agreed that there's a kind of change in the linguistic structure. People are mixing, people are no more speaking their pure language, and especially the young generation. So, as I said, that it is quite a feature how there is mixing of codes taking place, or when as I mentioned in the previous slide, when there's a shift towards the dominant advantageous language. So I put a question that, do you think language documentation or preservation efforts can help mitigate language loss due to climate change? So, well, to some people, like I remember that one of the informants said that yes, this is of quite a help. I mean, we are doing preservation efforts, and I'll show you in the eventual slides also. We are doing some community-based initiatives, and I was very happy to know that whether it is on a small scale, but they are doing some community-led initiatives are going on. But then that's not sufficient. I think we need to sensitize more and more people in this area of language and ecology, because we don't pay attention. The point is that the whole idea is that we need to preserve our culture, and for that we need to preserve. I mean, language is one aspect of culture. We need to preserve our languages. So the minimum we can do is to speak our mother tongues, and that's what some of these people said. They said that we must speak our mother tongue. As I said, I was very impressed with one of the Gaddi speakers who said that mother tongue is very important, but then not everyone realizes this. So to this question also, 80% of respondents agreed that language documentation and preservation efforts can help mitigate language loss due to climate change. 10% disagreed, and again 10% showed uncertainty to provide responses. So I have mentioned here that there is a strong consensus on the significance of language documentation and preservation. The disagreement may stem from concerns about effectiveness or prioritization, and uncertainty suggests the need for further education and awareness. So the point is that when we talk about documentation, we always, as linguists, we are concerned about saving languages, documenting languages, or we want to involve ourselves in preservation efforts. So do we really do that? It is not just one man's work, but then it has to be it has to be a community led initiative. And I think only when we come together as groups, then we can do something about it. So I was glad that some amount of work is going on, but then little bit more is needed. So this was the person. I just thought of introducing you this person. Just a minute. Yeah. Now this is a main respondent. I mean the person to whom I mean I interviewed him directly on telephone, and he gave me a lot of information related to climatic condition, about the language part, and also about the community led initiatives that are going on. So, of course, I interviewed few Gaddis, okay, but then this was an in-depth interview, and he is Dr. Kehar Singh Thakur, and he's a scientist. He's working at Krishi Vigyan Kendra in Chamba. So he's a Gaddi. He's a Gaddi speaker. He is very much fluent in his language. He speaks very fluent Gaddi, though he's very fluent in Hindi, and he is good in English also. He's very well read. He has done his doctorate also, PhD also, and he was very well read. So he gave me a lot of information, and I recorded his interview, and it was, I mentioned the date here. It was 22nd October last year, and it was a 20 minutes interview barely. So well, he's somebody who was aware of the system, the cultural system, linguistic system. He had a sound knowledge, and I remember that he said that, you know, why not speak your language? But then people are not ready. So I remember that in the documentary, in one of the documentaries, how he mentioned that, you know, if the elders talk in Hindi at home and try to speak in English, okay, then somehow we are losing our culture, our real identity. I'm quoting him. I'm just trying to quote him what he said. If the elders will talk in Hindi at home and try to speak in English also, then somehow we are losing our culture, our real identity. And these were his views. And he even said that, so if you will not speak your language at home, your mother tongue at home, if you don't speak Gaddi at home, then it will surely be extinct. So we are already, as I said already, that it is an endangered language. And he could acknowledge that, yes, this is an endangered language. But then it has to be spoken. A language has to be spoken at home. Otherwise, the language will face extinction. And his thoughts were very clear. And he said that, the language is not mentioned anywhere in the written form. And he even said that, forgetting a mother tongue is not right. So he was very clear in his views that we need to pay attention to this whole idea of, speaking one's mother tongue. And he proudly said that I speak my mother tongue. So, I just, wanted to show like the questions and the exact response, because, this I just recorded the way he said. I just, gave the transcription here. So I started with that, and the first question that I asked him was that, how has climate change affected the traditional livelihood practices of the Gaddi tribe? So this was the exact response. Since I wanted to give the transcription here just for you to see, so I have mentioned here. So I'll just give you a gist. So he said that yes, because this was a live interview, this was a live data. So he said that yes, it has affected the lives of many Gaddi speakers. In fact, all of the Gaddi speakers. And as I said, the first thing that he said was that with the climate change, shifting of vegetation is taking place. So the grasslands that were there in Himachal, they had undergone a lot of changes. They have undergone a lot of changes. The pasture lands declined on account of climate change. And the profession of shepherds, being nomadic in nature, has declined too. So this is the exact number. He gave me the statistics that out of 100%, only 5% have remained as shepherds. And the major reason, of course, can be linked to climate change, and to a great extent. So the land available for pasture has been enclosed for them. In winter, they move to the plains, and they move to the mountains in summers. So of course, they're moving up and down. And of course, the quality of the pastures have also deteriorated. Besides, when they go downstairs, they face many cases of theft. So as I said before also, that practically the pragmatic situations are also affecting their livelihood practices. So they are facing cases of theft. So all this has become quite a challenge for them. and that is why the profession has less, I can say, uh, people who are involved in the profession of shepherds. So less people left. And then I asked that, have you noticed changes in weather patterns, temperature, or precipitation in the area of Gandhi speakers? And then he said that some regions, he mentioned that basically it is the Kinnaur, Kangra, and Bharmor. These are the major regions where Gaddi people thrive. And Bharmor is it's a Gaddi belt. So uh, his response was that earlier there was a set pattern of snowfall. For instance, in the month of November, there used to be rainfall, but now it has changed. And if one thinks that there would be snowfall during Christmas, then that is not taking place. 20 years back, snowfall used to start during November, and it is used to last till March, having 2 to 3 spells. But the current situation will not witness any spell as such. November and December would be completely dry. So again, we can say that one of the aspects of climate change with no spells. Moreover, the quantity of snow has also reduced. So earlier, there used to be 3 to 4 feet, which has now been reduced to 2 to 2.55 feet. In a few places, one would not find it as the distribution of snow is not proper. And this has led to the fluctuation of temperature as well. So there will be temperature variations as well. Since snowfall is the main source of water, so snow becomes a crucial factor as a source. And in case of heat, the areas of Himachal suffer again. Earlier, the maximum temperature was to be 30 degrees, which has now been raised to 40 degrees. So, and I can also say that few years back when I went to Himachal, I mean, my hometown, that is Dharamshala. So, I could not sense, any, uh, I mean, I just didn't feel that as if I'm in a hill station. There was some kind of, urbanization effect that I could feel there. And I mean, it's basically, as I said, that basically the man-made activities that is the prime, that's the prime reason why we are facing such erratic conditions in weather conditions, which is affecting everything. So, and if you ask people also, there's a shift in the temperature also. So the temperature also rises a lot, and there's a reduction in the quality of snow, quantity of snow, of course, quality of pastures. So all these things need a lot of attention. So, well, my major concern, one of the major concerns was about the health of Gaddis, to which I was being told that yes, it has affected Gaddis' health also, because they face lot of heat, extreme heat. Imagine, like, when we are in a field work, we are doing linguistic field work, then it's a different thing. But then we have some choices. These poor people have no choices. They have to move. They have to keep moving in search of, in search of their bread and butter. So they have to just keep on moving from place to place, and in that, in that whole journey, which that really affects their health at large. So that was one reason, heat, extreme heat, and it is not only affecting the health of Gaddis, but it is also affecting the health of the livestock. That's also getting affected. Then immediately my major concern, since I was dealing with the language part, I asked them that how fluent are the younger generations in Gaddi? Or do they use the language in daily life? So the respondent said that the elder Gaddis still speak their language and they are very proud of their culture. This is very true. When I spoke to Dr. Thakur, I could see the pride in his, voice with which he was, voicing his opinions, his insights about the language and the people. I could see that, that emotion. I could feel that. He was very proud of his culture. But then it's a sad thing that, as usual, when he said that the younger ones have moved to other places and they have quitted, some of them who might be practicing, they have quitted the pastoral business and taken up other jobs and positions. The migration factor has been on the rise, and the young people are retaining Gaddi's linguistic structures but not wholly. They prefer to speak Hindi and English instead. And this is followed by an intergenerational transmission gap as well. The previous generation is still aware of the language and culture, and the next generation, as a result, is not aware of the cultural heritage. So, again, there's a gap. There is a linguistic gap, there's a cultural gap. So many gaps are there. So, well, he narrated the situation and he said that, people speak their language. The elders speak their language, they retain their linguistic structures. But then things from the side of young people, they are different. So I said, what factors led to the loss of Gaddi language? So he said that many factors are responsible for the loss of Gaddi language, such as migration and globalization. Many Gaddi kids move out in search of education and reputed jobs. And as I said, that in that area, there is a lot of upsurge, or I should say, there is a lot of craze for bagging a government job. So in search of that, they move out. They might be going to metropolitans or other cities or even places near Bharmor. As I said, a Gaddi person can migrate from the Bharmor to Kangra, which is more advanced, in search of a job and might start working there. And in that scenario, he or she comes in contact with Kangadi language, and he might, that language might affect his language, that is Gaddi. And that's happening. So they move to metropolitans and other cities, and as such, they are at language loss. And besides these, many Gaddis have moved out of their places due to extremes of climatic conditions to other places. Sometimes these conditions are playing with their health, their wellness, so they just move out of their places. They are no more continuing with their pastoral profession. And that's the reality. That is the reality. What I have just stated in my research is the current situation. And if things continue like this, because the climatic conditions are growing, they're growing stronger every time. So if things continue like this, then there won't be speakers left. However, people are making efforts to preserve and promote the language. Whatever little efforts are going on, I'm glad they are making efforts, but this needs a call. It's a call for us. We need to, look at the matter seriously, especially when we think from the angle of climate change, how it can affect a community, and indirectly many things associated with the community, language being one of those. So then there was this, I think this was the last question. Yeah. So the last question that I asked was, are there efforts to preserve and promote the Gaddi language? So, well, I got this concise answer, but then I just got to know some amount of initiatives. So he said that government officials are making efforts to promote this language and culture. The speakers sing local songs to promote the Gaddi language. I think recently I was discussing with one of the experts related to ecology and language, and that person said that even in foreign countries, like there are methods being employed to promote the endangered language, and one such method is to sing. Because of singing a local song or some kind of cultural song, you know uh, can also lead to the promotion of the language, which is one ways. So in among the Gaddi speakers, they sing a lot, especially they have local functions, programs, so where they sing local songs. So that is also kind of promotion of the language. When you sing, so you sing in front of public, for example, so they listen to the song and they also imbibe the song. So there is some amount of, you can say, uh, transmission taking place, and it happens somebody is singing, and you just join the choir. So that's a good practice. And then there is a Gaddi ritual called Nuala, which is performed by people of Gaddi who are working towards promoting and preserving the Gaddi language. This Nuala is a ritual in the Gaddi tribe which refers to the musical organization of the folk narrative of the Sabine. Sabine actually comprises of stories of Shiva. So, in order to perform this ritual, that is Nuala, there's a get together that is being done. Thousands of people come to watch the sight. So, this actually, it's a kind of, uh, an initiative to promote the culture, the language, and the message is being promoted through the events. So the Gaddi people believe that they have some duties towards society that every society member should follow. So when in the whole process of performing at Nuala, I mean, there are so many events being, that are employed. So as I said, that this actually refers to the stories of Shiva. Okay, some amount of, you can say, a musical organization of the folk narrative of these stories. Okay, so that is quite heartening to know that these things are being, performed. And also the communities need to develop adaptation solutions and implement actions to respond to current and future climate change impacts. That is needed. That is needed. Of course, people are trying to address the issues. Today itself, I was reading. We have a very popular magazine based on environment that is down to earth. So I was reading an article blog by a reporter who actually worked on, the Gaddi community, and has really, I mean, has mentioned, the climatic impact upon the Gaddi people, and how, it was the same situation, how there's a shifting of ecology taking place. It is affecting their lives, their livestock, everything. So that actually calls for an action. So this was the thematic analysis. If you can see, so I just did a thematic analysis where I grouped the participants and their viewpoints on climate change and language loss and the components associated with that. For example, participant one, gave the insights on climate change indirectly affecting languages, which leads to cultural loss. So this came under the domain of loss of knowledge. And then participant two gave viewpoints on, how climate change is a major factor in language loss, something we can associate with language disappearance. Participant three, long-term changes in climate affect the languages. So climate change, language extinction. Then participant four, environmental disasters lead to language loss. Of course, there's this whole idea of displacement also taking place. So as I said that, well, the shifting of ecology is taking place, and in some way or the other, the climatic conditions, suppose landslides, heavy landslides are taking place in the areas of Himachal, and it's not safe to visit that time also. So people have to move from their place. Earlier also we had landslides, but now it's very disruptive. I mean, you never know, there can be some kind of erosion of the place. We are here talking about the erosion of languages, but of course, physically also, if you can see that a lot of things are also getting eroded. Then participant 5 spoke about loss of language, which is worsened by climate change. Of course, linking it up with environmental disasters. So in a way, indirectly, I don't say that directly, but yes, indirectly, it is affecting the languages. And this is just one belt I have mentioned, particularly the Bharmor belt. Also, I also got data from Kinnaur also, Kinnaur region also. But yeah, I mean, most of the speakers were from the Bharmor region. And Kinnaur region, I remember one of the informants who was a Gaddi speaking person. He has been living in Kinnaur and he has been moving to, more urban places, and he's been doing his business. His family has left the profession of, being shepherd and involving themselves with livestock. So there's a change. Then there were some more participants stating how climate crisis affects people and their culture, which results in language loss too. Linguistic amnesia that we always say. How when the cultural loss is there, leading to language loss. Then one of them said changes in the frequency and distribution of weather indirectly affecting the community and its local language. Of course, somewhere where or the other, everything, I mean, language endangerment, of course, because, and I should also say language endangerment, and at the same time, the environmental disruptions also leading to uh, loss of language or language erosion, creating a scenario of language endangerment. So, from a linguist viewpoint, if we analyze this situation, we'll see that, of course, this is a fact that Gaddi is an endangered language, but one such reasons, one such indirect cause is heavy climatic conditions. As one participant said, the climate has changed for the last 12 years. Some said 20 years, some said 12 years. Then I spoke to some more people and they said for the last decade, there has been tremendous changes. So there's climatic variation, global warming, linguistic loss, all related together. Again, the point of migration and forced displacement also again came. And in a way, what is leading to that? One such factor is climate change. Then extreme heat and hotter temperature, accelerating language loss. So this is true, as I said, that every year there's this 0.2 degrees Celsius, there's this increase in the temperature. I spoke to one of the Gaddi speakers. She was a female and her name was Rajni, I remember. And how she said that, we have been facing a lot of heat, because the point is that, these people live on mountains and they have to walk a lot. So walking for them is a very natural exercise. But then when there is a heavy climatic condition, things go worse. So I remember she said that things are not that easy. It's affecting our job. She said, I belong to a shepherd's community. My grandfather used to practice, my father used to practice, but I'm like now in my family, nobody's practicing this profession. We have stopped because there are so many things, that is affecting our profession. And then she said that she's running her own business venture. So, but then I said that, does your children speak your language? She said that they have moved out of our regions and they are in urban areas, in metropolitan areas, and they understand the language, but then not that much. They speak English more. So, this was also one of the observations. And as I said, that one of the Gaddi speakers, in the documentary, just said that, how, you know, um, the officers who are living in those regions, the bureaucrats, they want to converse in English. So they don't want to converse in their language, even if they know the language. So there are instances of language attitudes also. Well, the study had limitations also. And one such limitation was limited resources, because I could not find a lot of resources for this, especially from the angle of linguistic erosion. But yes, I could find some studies related to how climate change is affecting the lives of these people And I'm glad there are good documentaries, there are good podcasts. I mean, there are like, I should say, good number of documentaries and lot of published material also about the language, their culture, which is so interesting. Then for the data collection, you know, uh, I could not go to the direct field, so that was a lack, that was a gap. But due to some reasons, I couldn't go to that. I didn't have the field experience, the live field experience. But then I thought that let's try something like this, and let me read some secondary materials. Let me talk to people through some other modes, and once I come at some concrete result, I would definitely in future would like to interact with people in person, because when you meet a person, I mean, in flesh and blood, I mean, then you have a different kind of experience. You can understand their plight. There is more empathy involved, which is lacking in telephonic conversations, or I should say online meetings. So there's a lack. But yes, this was how the initiation took place. And also, I remember that there was this unavailability of tribes in particular season. That time when I was trying to get some more people, so some of them I asked that, could you please connect me to some tribal people? So they said that they are not available. So at times, they had, since they are always shifting, so they might have moved to some other place. So they were unavailable. So that also became a constraint of my study. Cultural sensitivity. Sometimes people to whom ask, or depend for resources, they are not, they are culturally very sensitive. I mean, so you have to be very particular. So sometimes they are not ready to share the information. So those things also occurred, but then overall it was fine. But yes, of course, this was one of the limitations of the study. Accessibility. So sometimes accessibility in terms of like the sources, it can be the primary or the secondary sources. So that can also be sometimes that also comes as one of the limitations. And documentation. So documentation was less, and you won't find some kind of, I should say, a lot of digital documentation of the language also. Of course, we have interesting documentaries, they are there, but then I mean, the language part is not covered much. But yes, there is a kind of relation that is being brought out by the interface of ecology and culture. That's there. So these were the limitations of the study. But then, as I said, that I want to convert these limitations into the strengths of the study later, which I'll be doing. And if I get a chance to speak these tribes in person, then I think there will be more justice to the study, of course. But yes, the point is that you need to really uh, I mean, look from all angles, and especially when we talk about ecology, I think if we have people from environmental sciences, or let's say geography, so even you can always have that kind of interdisciplinary or holistic viewpoint also. So as since most of you are PhD students, I guess, so I'll always tell you that if you're doing a research, and if it is an interdisciplinary research, well and good, so you can always discuss your research work with people from different areas, who will give you some good suggestions, or who will give you their own viewpoints, insights. So that will add as an aid to your study, that will be an extension to your study, because in the present times we cannot think of a subject in isolation. I mean, we have to view at a subject in a very holistic manner. You know, the whole person education that we talk about, how you have to actually, even for students, we need to offer whole person education, a holistic education, a holistic dimension has to be showed to them. So, as teachers, also, as learners, also, or as students, or as researchers, why not discuss our works with people from other backgrounds so that we add or we make it more enriching? All right. So, these are the recommendations of the study. So, I mean the next plan of action, I should say. So, I thought that collaborating with local communities can always help as to gain more insights about the topic and employing innovative contemporary methods. So, for any kind of research, we can always employ some novel methods, more and more novel methods, to make it more novel and to make it more interesting, of course, and you know going with the times, I should say. And as I said, again, I'm reiterating my point, how community involvement is very important. I mean, nothing can be done in isolation. If you think that, okay, I'll say my language, it's not possible. You need to come together. How recently I was in a conference, and there were like foreigners. I remember there was this group of foreigners who said that, if we really need to save the languages, why not come together? Let's take little initiatives. Let's take this initiative of speaking a language. Whether it is in basic form, it's fine. So they said that why not pick up a language? Let's decide a language today and make it little, give it a, give it life to it. Let's speak that language. And that was good because many of them were there. So these efforts matter. You need to have the whole community to come at something concrete. Of course, NGO partnerships that can also help. As I said, that in a world today where we are living, if you if you're just sitting on your own and you're not talking to people, things won't take a shape. You need to go with collaborations. You need to reach out to people. Then only things will be fine. So NGO partnerships also can help, also collaborating with academic institutions, and in an overall awareness generation is required because it really helps. Why I'm saying this, because this sounds a little theoretical, but then if you promote something, then it has an impact upon people. It is very true. For advertisements, if you see some striking advertisement, it catches your attention, right? Similarly, for linguistic initiatives or language saving initiatives, if you really do some effort and people notice it, I'm sure some people will come together. You form a community and you work in that area. And many of you are doing that also. So let's come to the conclusion and implications of the study. So, well, climate crisis is creating climate change refugees. Displacement issues are prevalent, which can cause them to fragment and make them in contact with other linguistic communities. Quite true. As people, have seen how people are moving from one place to another. They're coming in contact with other linguistic communities. Often they are switching to the so-called, you know, not stronger languages, but dominant advantages languages. Then climate change's impact on indigenous communities, highlighting the urgent need for preservation and support. So we are documenting and we are also looking forward for preservation and support. So I think certain policies can be made for this. Of course, people are working in the direction. A lot of things are coming up also and going on also. But then there is a need to address these issues broadly. and how we can portray. Now, this is just one example. You'll get a lot of examples like this if you try to, explore the Indian linguistic belt. So, for example, in this study, how Gaddi people struggle, that is being portrayed, and that is also conveying the severity of the situation. Similarly, we have Gujars also. Gujars also one of the, one of the communities that actually reside in parts of Jammu region and also in some parts of Himachal also. So they are also facing the same thing. Many of them also are also, based in Kashmir also. So because of the climate condition, and now the climatic conditions are very pressing. So in one way or the other, it's affecting them a lot. So if we see us around, if we see us surrounded by these communities, whether it is Gaddi or Gujars or many other communities, we'll see that most of them are facing issues that is affecting their lifestyle, their linguistic structures, their health, and overall, way of living. That's true. All right, so with that, I come to the end of my work, and these are some of the references that I have mentioned here. And I hope that I could make some sense and meaning, and I hope it was fruitful. So, just want to give you one message that save ecology, preserve culture, cherish languages, because everything is intertwined, and saving one aspect can lead to saving many things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions?
Thank you, Devina.
If you
Advice.
have any queries.
No, it was a good.
I should,
It was a good.
yeah, I should thank you people, because this was a very, basic work, and I'm very glad because recently I presented this work in Indian Institute of Technology also, and with the research scholars. And I think this is the second time. I'm thankful to Dr. Shri Kumar and the team for having me here and presenting my insights. So if you have any comments to make or any questions, any query, you are please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Devina. It was a good presentation for our students and scholars. It was good, and all teachers also. We are not.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening, sir.
And first of all, thank you, Dr. P. Sri Kumarji, for arranging this, and Devira for doing this. Little dry for somebody that the majority of people, that's a lesser people are there.
Devina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I think Professor Khan is not very audible because the sound is very low.
Very
Sir,
low.
could you?
Let me let me try to increase the volume. It is
Yes, yes,
possible.
now it's better. Yes, it's better now.
Is,
Yes,
is
sir.
it okay?
Yes, sir, it's better.
Okay. At the outset, let me thank Mr. Dr. P. Srikumar for arranging this and Devina for presenting the same.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, it was information for me because myself a Urdu professor teaching Malayali
Okay.
student having Urdu
Okay.
background, that too
All
from
right.
Andhra Pradesh, that is a Telugu background. So it's a matter
Okay.
of languages. That's why I'm interested in all these things.
Okay.
Just that there was a magazine from Srinagar that's a
Okay.
Shiraza, the
Okay.
magazine. Then I
Okay.
had gone to a language study called Sheena language. Sheena
Okay.
language.
Sheena. Yes,
Sheena.
yes, sir.
So
Yes.
any similarity with this language with Sheena that is the curiosity I'm asking you.
Yes, sir. I would just like to tell you that, of course, it's basically the Dardic language. It's an Indo-Aryan language. And I just want to share, since you have talked about Sheena, that when I was doing my PhD, I was working on the area of tones. Okay, linguistic tones. So Sheena was one of the language which I was supposed to, infuse in my inventory, but then due to some reasons, I did not include that. But yes, there were other languages on which I was focusing. Well, Sheena, for example, there is not, in terms of linguistic structures, well, not, because Gaddi, if I, what my knowledge is like, I have been listening to some of the Gaddi speech, though I don't know the language, but I've been acquainted with the words and some of the forms. So it is almost, in some forms are similar to Punjabi, or I should say Dogri also, which is one of the languages of Himachal, of course, spoken in Jammu also. So since it is Indo-Aryan, both are Indo-Aryan, so we can say that, uh, I mean, maybe some forms might be similar. But then, for example, there are tones, but then Gaddi does not have tones as such. So, that's, there is no, as such, there is no complete, some kind of resemblance, as you can say. Yes.
Yes, but that one more observation. When you are
Yes,
calling
sir.
this that's Gaddi as a language you are calling it. You are treating
Yes.
as a
So,
language or a dialect.
Gaddi, yes, sir. Gaddi means seat. It's actually refers to seat, you know. So
SCAT.
Gaddi is the tribe, yes.
Yes.
SEAT, seat. So that's the tribe also. It refers to, it's a nomenclature for the tribe as well as a nomenclature for the language also, both.
Is there any script for that Gaddi script is there?
Yeah, I mean, earlier it was, there was Chakri script, Chakri, but then now it's mostly written in Devanagari.
In your presentation, you have made any specimen for that script something?
For the script, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Well,
any statements for that? Any alphabets or any symbols or
okay,
signs?
all right, all right. Well, not specifically because I haven't mentioned, but maybe in the introduction part, I have in my research I have mentioned about the how there was Sakri, and then now mostly it is written in Devanagari. But then we don't have, existing literature as such, existing literature in this language. And this is mostly, spoken in the oral form only. As I said, that there are Gaddi songs, there are Gaddi folk tales, but written evidence is very less. But I think I need to delve more into it. As I said, that right now, last year when this idea came to me, so I was mostly trying to observe things from, the ecology side also. So I was trying to, collect, for example, as I mentioned about the wild fruits, for example, how the terminologies are getting lost. Okay, so I
Then,
was more
then,
into that. So yes,
then I'm curious to know one more thing, if you permit me.
yes,
Then
yes,
is
sir.
there any patronage from the government side, the local government there, either a local government from there or the central government here, patronage to safeguard that extinct language, let it be in the oral forms, something like that. Any patronage, any encouragement is there from the government
Okay,
side?
encouragement. Yes, when I discussed this with Dr. Thakur, the main respondent, and he said that I mean Dr. Thakur himself is working a lot in the area of preservation of language. So he said that there are preservation programs and we are making community efforts. And since he is, I think somewhere or the other is in contact with the officials also, so some amount of initiatives are taking place. But then, so the efforts are quite, I should say, I mean, minimal efforts. But then it's not a completely sad picture. People are making efforts, but then the only thing is that it needs to be addressed more. So project wise, or this, if there's something specific, some amount of initiatives are going on. So they have these, festivals, or some kind of rituals where they promote the language. He even told me that how they put up certain costumes and promote the language. All such things, the community driven initiatives are going on. But let's hope that things are more positive in the future. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Vidya.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, dear.
Any other questions?
Maybe Sudhi must be asking something because Sudhi was working on some
Yes,
climate change
Shruti,
in
Shruti,
Malayalam.
yes, yes, ecology. Yeah, she
Hi,
just.
ma'am. Hi, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
It's being nice to see you.
Happy to
Yes,
see you. Nice
yeah,
to see you too. So, my area of research is not ecolinguistics, but I have made some studies.
okay,
So, my first of all, thank you for your beautiful lecture. So,
thank
my
you.
question is regarding the climate crisis discourse. My study was regarding the climate crisis discourse. So, my
Okay.
question is whether we should rebuild this climate crisis discourse. Is there any need to rebuild? We already have a climate crisis discourse, but do we need to rebuild it according to the current scenario?
I think, well, the point is that, this is a pressing problem. Okay. And I
Can
mean,
you
in
move the
Kerala,
mic?
yes, in Kerala also, if you see, I mean, there are like climate change taking place. You can see. And yesterday, I remember that there was a cloudburst in Kolkata, for example, and how, I mean, there was heavy rainfall, and suddenly this took place. So, well, you say rebuilding the discourse. Okay. Now, what do we understand by this? Are we really looking for some kind of, recommendations, or are we looking for some kind of, solutions to the existing problems? I mean, in what sense are you asking, Shruti? Can you just elaborate?
Yeah, the solutions.
Yeah. So, I mean, if even if I ask the people from environmental sciences, who are basically experts of climate change, I'm not from this area, but yes, I've been studying a little bit of it. I'm more from linguistics. So they tell me that it is basically the human beings. We are responsible purely for climate change in every form or the other. This is the clear and concise answer that I received from them. Now, what to do? Now, of course, I mean, we are sensitizing this issue. We are spreading awareness. We are planting trees. We are, taking care of, our vegetation. We are, collaborating with people to, come up with drives. Okay, so that we combat the problems of climate change. So I think we really have to move forward. But then again, it is a set of people who are actually, trying to, hamper the smooth processes that are going on. So of course, we need to, we need to work on this. We really need to work on this. And I mean, like, for example, this research, for example, you all are research scholars, so you can address issues. You can address issues. And there are like various portals also. For example, when it comes to environment, recently I worked in the area of, how, certain water terminologies, how these carry our ancient knowledge to combat the system of, or to combat the problems of flood. I think Shruti must have seen also, because you told me also. So how, that water resilience, certain terms that actually carried water resilience, how, we need to revive those terms again. That was one effort. That was just one effort. And when that message spread, people have been telling me, oh, we have to look, we can think in that direction. So I think as linguists also, we can, give our contributions in this area, and it will, I think, kind of safeguard a lot of, things that are actually getting lost or getting disrupted. So I think we should continue with our efforts. We really want to, fight this issue. And you can always do through your contributions, through your writings in many forms. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Also, like it is the climate crisis discourse that it is the only bridge that connects common man and the environment. It is only through this discourse that we get to know what is happening around us, what is happening in the environment. So we need to come up with terminologies that can actually capture the intensity,
Exactly.
yeah, of
Exactly.
the.
Like I said, that, the water bodies that we decided to work on, that was one thought that just came to us. Why not, collect terminologies related to water bodies, that actually carry the ancient knowledge. If you look at, if you try to analyze our words, okay, these carry a lot of knowledge. Okay, as compared to English, for example. So like in kinship terms, if you, like the place where I live in Bihar, like there are like Bihari languages where there are a lot many kinship terms. I was surprised. I've been talking to people and they say that in English we don't have as many terms like the way we have in our Indian languages. So it's very enriching. Similarly, so there are ways. Okay, so when as I just gave you an example of the flood situation, there are ways to combat or to keep ourselves ready for the flood situation, and this is what essentially was engraved in those Indian terms which we tried to collate, so we can make our efforts. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions?
Shruti, what was your area in ecology? What did you actually work on related to ecology?
I worked on climate crisis discourse in Malayalam.
Okay, that's interesting.
What she was observing is that Malayalam language is not enough now to express the
Yeah.
new climate crisis. Earlier,
Okay.
when you have a hot rain,
Yeah.
whatever it is, your vocabulary is enough to express.
And yeah,
Now,
exactly. With the
cyclone,
decline.
cyclone,
Yeah.
what is called, uh, the cloud blast. We don't
Yeah.
have a word for those things.
Yeah. Cloud burst.
That was the observation she made.
Okay.
Because language is not enough to express the new crisis which we are passing through. That was the observation she made.
Yeah, very interesting. The linguistic crisis that you actually spoke about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish you all
Um,
the best. You should continue in this field and explore more
thank you.
intersections and more aspects.
Thank you, ma'am. So if there are no questions, we can move on to the vote of thanks. On behalf of the Department of Linguistics, Central University of Kerala, and our research forum, Sangam, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to all those who have made today's lecture grand success. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Devina Krishna. Our sincere thanks and love to you for your lecture titled Ecological Impact on Linguistic Diversity with special focus on Northwestern India. And through your lecture, we got to know the deep, intricate connection between linguistic diversity and ecology. And we got to know how the language is connected with the surrounding trees, rivers, the weather patterns we have. And also, you have put forward a very interesting question, like, the disruption of nature, the disruption of flora and fauna, it eventually leads to the erosion of a language. So that was a very interesting question. So thank you for your very enlightening, thought-provoking lecture. And I would like to thank all the faculty members, the scholars, and the students for joining with us. And also, some of them have joined online. Thank you for your support, for your active participation. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for making Sangam more vibrant and meaningful. Hope to see you all in the upcoming sessions of Sangam. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, ma'am, once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And once again, I thank all the organizers, especially Dr. P. Shri Kumar and all the people associated. And thank you, the research scholars, because you have been waiting for me till this time. I know that your classes are over and this was the time allotted. So I had to shift my time little 15 minutes more. So you had to wait also. So thank you so much for your patient listening. And let's hope that, we come up with more solutions, more such deliberations and discussions in future, so that, we have something left for our future generation also to ponder and to make use of it. Yeah, thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.
Thank you, Devina.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shri Kumar. I think with your permission, so then shall we
Thank
call
you.
it a day? Yeah. Okay.
Aromal, is it over? Aromal is the coordinator of this.
Yes.
Yes, sir. It's all.
I think you have to unmute yourself, Aromal.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
hope to see again in future. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.